Salam Media, and you are tuned into the Ashraf God.
So last year we had a feature called Mosques of South Africa. This year it's the mosques from around the world. We'll chat about the Blue Mosque, the Jami Mosque in Istanbul, in Turkey. That comes up just now. Let's, however, do pick up on this feature called My First Ramadan, where we speak to people and we find out what they've done and their experience has been in their very first Ramadan as a practicing Muslim. And it could be 20 years ago, it could be 1 year ago, it could be this year. And it's been a fascinating conversation, a journey, even for us listening to that so far. So my guest today, with her sharing her first Ramadan, is Sabera Russell Mackenzie. Sister Sabera, appreciate your time. Good morning and assalamu alaikum. I trust you can hear me, Sister Sabera. No, there could be some disconnection there. Let's see if you can, because it was very clear just now. Just to tell you very quickly, even in the mosque from around the world, right? If you have any suggestions which mosques from around the world we need to talk about, then I want to know. Someone suggested, please get to talk about the mosque in Mali. You know that that mosque that is made of mud, and it's a part of a global heritage. Absolutely. So yeah, I think we need to do that. Let's see if we can. Right, we're going to connect with. I think we can do that right away. I'm just waiting for the go ahead. Yes, we do. Sister Sabera, you can hear me now, right? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, and I certainly can hear you. Okay, so in the preface to talking to you, I made the point that we talk to people and share, getting them to share the experiences of their very first Ramadan, be it a year ago, be it 20 years ago. We want to know what was it like, because we just think it's very, very interesting and transformational, even to listen to it, right? So when was your first Ramadan?
This is my first Ramadan.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it just happened for you, right? Wow.
Yes.
10 days, yeah.
Yes, I took the Shahada in June of last year. So this is my first.
Okay, and what were your expectations of your first Ramadan, and what has been the reality, the lived experience?
My first expectations were there was going to be the most horrendous experience, and that I was literally going to be hanging on walls and fainting and not being able to cope with what Ramadan was about to offer. Strangely enough, found that food became absolutely no problem at all. I never have been hungry, and that most of the day I'm not thirsty either. Possibly the worst time is 20 minutes before the end of the fast, when a cup of tea would just be so lovely. But that's the time we're meant to pray the hardest. So I found it easy physically to do, and nothing like I expected it to be.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting you say so, because I mean you're quite right. You know, for many people, as you would know, because the fasting is compulsory for a person once they reach the age of around 13 or so, right? They would start fasting, maybe one fast in Ramadan, two fasts in Ramadan from the age of 6 and 7, and then progress as they get to 13 or 12 or 13 anyway, right? So those kids will know exactly the difficulties, but when they come to 13, they'll be quite the experts, right? Do you attribute the easiness of the fast to a spiritual connection, or do you just find that it's easier than you would have thought, even if a person fasting was not of the Muslim faith, meaning they just simply embraced this as a practice?
No, I don't believe it would be that easy. I think the concentration on the spiritual side and the remembrance that the reason why we are doing this is around the mercy of Allah, and around the wonderful experience of drawing closer to Him and having the time to grow closer to Him. I don't think that it would have been easy had this not been for a desire to grow closer to Allah, to learn about His mercy, to learn forgiveness, to learn patience. I think that sets the mind in a completely different direction. I think if I just started fasting in the middle of nowhere, I would have failed the first day.
Yeah, it is a fast for a higher purpose. I think you've
Yes.
highlighted that spot on. Has somebody guided you along? And I'm talking of the Ramadan only. Firstly, because I would think if you're going for a gym session for the first time, you need a gym trainer to even get you to understand how to even program the bicycle, even for 5 minutes, right? Do you have someone who's walking with you on this journey and taking you step by step on the Ramadan aspect first, and then we'll go back to the beginning?
Yes, I do. I have several people who talk to me, who check on me on a regular basis, who ask how I'm finding it, and who also send a lot of verses and the most incredibly spiritually uplifting pieces to me. So I do have people who are guiding me through this. I do.
Yeah, and I mean that brings me on to the next point. It's not just about fasting; it's a lot about self-reflection, but also a
Yes.
lot about prayer, and sometimes very extended prayer. And as you would know, as a Muslim, the Quran and its guiding light is very much a central focus of the Islamic faith, in terms of providing the mission to let us live a life on another plane. How are you embracing all those things? It can be pretty
Um,
daunting. Yeah,
um, it's not so daunting if you forget about the worldly things and people around you. If you are focused on Allah, then everything falls into place. The Quran, of course, is where we are daily, and considering and just absorbing the very meaning of it. And meanings begin to have more meaning than they did before. For instance, the little verse that you have to establish salah, the word establish is so much more important than the word perform or
yeah,
any
yeah.
other thing. It's the getting to know the word and how it needs to mean to me as a person anyway.
Yeah, I think that's a very good important point. It does beg the question, because you said, what did you say? July last year was the time that you effectively actively embraced the Islamic faith. So you're still you're a new baby in that sense, right? Uh,
Huge.
the obvious question is, like, why? What happened to you?
I had a partner that I had for 32 years, and he got cancer, and he spent 7 years effectively fighting it and losing the battle. And he had said on numerous occasions the cancer had spread everywhere, that if he were to go blind, he would take his own life, and he had the means to do so. And I was so desperate about it, because I've had suicides in my own family and my nuclear family. And I was so desperate about it. I'd heard that if you pray to Allah in the last third of the night, he would hear your dua and he would answer it. And I prayed to him and I said to him, I do not want this man that I love to commit suicide. And he has said several times that if he goes blind, he will. And I said, please, from the bottom of my heart, I beg you, take him before he goes blind. And on the 25th of December, when I said goodnight to him, he said to me, now my sight's beginning to go. And my whole insides nearly fell out. And inside my head, I was just screaming, Allah, please, please help. And he died that night. And I had promised Allah that if this were to happen, if he were to go peacefully, that I would serve him for the rest of my life. And that's when I started seeking for a place and someone to help me do the Shahada and to start learning.
Okay, that's so fascinating, because I mean that reminds me of a well-renowned star, a music star, Cat Stevens or Yusuf Islam, who almost died, I think, out at sea, and he almost had the same covenant with Allah to say, if you rescue me, God, I will serve you. And then the serving of the God was expressed through the Islamic faith, as opposed to others, right? So why, one thing is serving God, but you said serve Allah. So why Allah? Why the Islamic faith? Why not saying I will serve God in another way? I'm guessing something happened before you to choose that, because you also made the point that prayer in the last third of the night is the one most accepted by Allah. That means somebody's been talking to you.
I've been listening to a lot of YouTubes, Mufti Mink, who is fabulous, and several of the others. And I had heard this repeated over about a period of about a month. But prior to that, I'd had an opportunity in 1999 to go to Iran and Tehran and to lecture on soldiers in the First World War and the relationship between South Africa and Iran. And I was just absolutely struck when I was there, the absolute peace and quiet that there was in the country. And I actually cried when I left. So I had started beginning to scratch at that time to find out what it was all about. And I had been listening and reading and listening and reading, nothing formal. But that, I just felt that night when I left that the only thing I could do was to call out to Allah.
Okay.
I just knew that it was the only thing that would ever help.
Even though the journey took like over 20 years or so
Yes.
to materialize. I mean, Allah decides on his own. Absolutely. Just the last thing, very, very quickly, therefore. So, having now practiced the Islamic faith for just under a year, but your first Ramadan, how two things? How has that changed you as a person? And B, how has that impacted on the people around you? Obviously, your loved one, the one you refer to, is not with you any longer. But how has it impacted on the other people closest to you?
I think the biggest impact it's made on my life is that I'm quite a short-tempered person and quite irascible and quite likely to snap someone's head off if they do something wrong. And in praying to Allah for mercy and in praying for the forgiveness of sins, it becomes all too evident that I really don't have the right to do that to other people if Allah is not doing that to me. So patience, which is my name actually, has become part of my life, which it never was before. How it's impacted on others, I think that people have noticed and have commented that I'm not liberal with ideas anymore. They have to me, relate somehow spiritually to my life, which takes a great deal of common conversation and just gossip or idle chat out of your life almost immediately. So
Well,
that,
and if they're rather frustrated by them, just ask them to have sabr and explain to them what sabr means and then link it to your name. And I'm sure they will fully understand that. It's been fascinating talking to you.
thank you very much.
And as we talk to you, it renews our own faith and our needs to be sabr, to have sabr and to have resilience in our lives. So you've inspired us, you've inspired me. I appreciate your time, Sabera, Russell, Mackenzie. Appreciate your time.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Salaam alaikum. There we are. My first Ramadan. You want to tell me about your first Ramadan, even if it happened 30 years ago? I like to know. You can drop us an email or even WhatsApp us anytime here on or post comments on the various social media platforms at Salam Media. Let's talk about the Blue Mosque in Turkey right after this.